and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk about another one of the city's communications efforts, which is the 311 Customer Call and Email Center. My guest today is Cynthia Laurrell, who manages that center. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you, Robin. Glad to be here.
You are fairly new in this role in terms of the 311 Customer Call Center. Tell people a little bit about, though, how it originated and why we have it.
The 311 Customer Call Center started back in September of 1999, and it was really a recognition of the city who listened to residents and stakeholders and other customers who said, we want an easier access to city services. We want to be able to call in and not get passed around to a lot of different departments. So that's not unique to the city organization. I mean, any large organization, I'm sure we can all remember times we've called a larger organization.
Oh, gee whiz. Try to call a utility company.
And you get passed around and you tell your story, and then they send you to somebody else and you tell your story, and that can go on for a while.
Or you end up in voicemail and in limbo for a while.
Before you get to the right person. So having a 311 number that people could call as a single point of contact for city services and information made it much easier on the people that we serve. And we also expanded our hours at that time also, so that people who with busy lives didn't have to just call in during city hours, normal city operating hours, but they could call in early in the morning, late at night, and on weekends also.
Now, I have to admit, as a citizen, I never called. And I was under the impression that they would, that it was just to get your questions answered, like, who do I call for this? Or where do I get this information? But really, you guys transact business for citizens. Like, give me some examples.
Well, we do provide a fair amount of information, but it's sometimes fairly helpful information in terms of we can give you the basis of what you need to get a question answered, which may mean that we don't have to pass you on to the department at all, which frees them up to do more complicated tasks. And that's probably about 65% of what we do is providing the first line of information to people. But, excuse me, 35 to 40% of what we do is actually help citizens with their services. So it could be missed trash, or it could be I need some information about property assessments, or I need to know, I've got here's a big one that really just you can feel for people is I've got a stoppage, meaning I've got sewer backing up into my house.
Oh, that would be kind of a serious situation you would want to take care of.
That can ruin your day.
Yes, absolutely.
And so they can call into 311 and we can immediately register that service request, and it goes immediately to the people who will then take care of it.
And so that's the interesting part too. Your folks aren't just a switchboard, they have access to the computer systems that Public Works uses or that other departments use, and you actually put in the work order or alert the department and then kind of follow that through as well.
Correct.
So that's very helpful. Like as a customer or as a city resident, think I need to call Public Works if they forgot, one day they forgot my little street on a trash pickup. And Public Works, most of those folks are out on the street.
Exactly.
So they don't have their own, a lot of people. I know they have one or two, but people who can answer the phone. So you guys provide that service for Public Works. You do a lot of building permit and electrical permit and works, things like that also.
Public Works is our #1 internal customer.
It's one of our biggest departments and one of the ones that interacts with citizens so much.
And #2 would be the folks who are in codes compliance. So it could be someone who calls in, actually we get a lot of calls from contractors who have a permit to do work, and now it's time for them to schedule an inspection. Many of our calls are about that. So we can put that into the system. So again, the people with the greatest expertise are out there doing the work while we're helping keep it organized and scheduled on the front end. We also take a lot of calls from citizens who are calling in with complaints, code concerns about abandoned vehicles or a house that may have fallen into disrepair, and it may be affecting, in their minds, their look of the neighborhood and the property values. So we will take those calls, put those into the system, and let them know a little bit about what to expect in terms of the process, because that's a big part of what we do too, is help educate our callers about what's the process, what's going to happen next, what can I expect.
So that is, and that's the kinds of things citizens can call and report then, somebody has high weeds, I believe, or falling down building, and what do you tell them in that instance?
Well, what we tell them is we can look in the system to see if there's already been a complaint or a concern called in about that particular property. And we can let them know, is it just generally speaking, where is it in progress? Have they gone out and looked at it? And, are they on the situation? Or if it's completely new and we haven't heard about it, then we'll put that into the system and then give them an idea of when they can expect to hear from someone, or if they need to talk directly to the inspector, we can arrange for that to happen as well.
And a lot of other things, like people who want to report a street light that's out, or a pothole that needs repaired, or sidewalk problem, any of those kinds of things, you guys handle all that.
And I think too, it probably bears mentioning that our third most frequent area it will involve Parks and Recreation, because those folks do a lot of work keeping the city looking neat and presentable. And so if people have questions about when are things going to be mowed in this area or edged, or if a citizen says, we need to maybe pay a little more attention to a certain area of the city, is that possible? Then we can pass that on as well.
Well, that's helpful. And I'm going to also throw out animal control, because even if that isn't big in volume, it is still an area that you guys get a fair number of calls about.
It is, and not only is it something that's going on, animal issues are out there frequently, but they're also something that people feel very, very strongly about. So if there's an animal neglect situation, or a stray animal, or an animal that's been injured, people can call in to 311, and then we will pass that on to the animal control folks, who will then take a look at what the situation is.
And that's really helpful, because there's not that many of them, and they are out on the roads a lot. So you guys are their front desk in a lot of ways.
And 311 is not the only number. People will see around the city that, of course, 911 is
if you have
a number.
Emergency.
We want you to call directly to 911 if you have an emergency. But there have been times, too, when 911 is not the first place you want to go, and we don't want to tie them up from serving those emergency calls. So 311 is a good place to start for that. And 611 is another number that people will see around town, and that will enable them to access animal control in a different way, because sometimes those folks need to be in the system that allows police to then back them up, because some of what they do is dangerous.
Right. A dangerous dog call is not something you want to mess with.
But if it's not a more emergent situation, 311 is an excellent place to start, because again, that allows us to free up the subject matter experts, the people who really have the highest level of expertise to be out there taking care of city business.
Now, when 311 first started, I'm going to guess that almost all the calls, this is a dozen years ago, or not quite, 10, 11 years ago, all the calls came in from landlines, pretty much, and all you had to remember was 311. But you guys now have a different educational process, because, say, if I work in Newport News and try to call, or if I'm on my cell phone because I no longer have a landline, you have to remember more numbers.
That's true. And so the other number we want people to know about is 727-8311.
And people can also interact with your department via email. Is that becoming a bigger portion of what you do?
It is. We're seeing that grow, and since we can tell that those are the channels and the methods that people are looking more and more to communicate with us on, we're also looking at ways that we can go to additional media. We're exploring live chat. We're exploring people being able to text in, and mobile applications, so that we can reach a larger number of citizens, because we know we have a great service, and we know that we support the other city departments in getting their jobs done, so we want to make it really easy for people to access us.
I will say, though, people need to remember, and this came up, I can't remember if it was potholes or something else, there are outside services, and I know the newspaper used to have one on its website, I don't know if it still does, that says you can report your pothole here. And what people have to understand is that is in no way, shape, or form connected to the city. So we can't even harvest that information and put it in our system. And we really want Hampton residents to go to 311 because that way we know it's been reported and we can follow up on it. If it gets reported to some sort of a web service that we don't have or aren't affiliated with, it's not really being reported.
And we don't want people to think we've ignored what their request for service or information is, but if it didn't come to us, we can't take care of it.
We can't act on it.
The other thing we probably need to mention to people is they can also go to hampton.gov. And there are a couple of links to comments, questions, and the like that will allow you to fill out a form that will also come over to 311.
And there are some frequently asked questions on there. I think you and I are going to update it for when we redo the website so that's a little more searchable. But you can go through there now, and really just reading that is very helpful and educational.
There's a tremendous amount of information in those FAQs, so that can be a good place for people to look for general information as well. If you have any questions, just give us a call.
Are people hesitant to call? Like I know I was as a resident. I was like, oh, I don't want to bother. It's it's not that big a deal. I don't want to bother you.
I think that probably, I'm sure there are some people that are hesitant to call. We also have a lot of people who must have us on speed dial. They figured out that it's an easier way to get into the city and what they need and to get some information, questions answered. So we have some people that we hear from on a regular basis, and they're actually probably our best marketing because they'll pass that on to other people and say, hey, call 311, they're a great place to go.
I did notice that in the city services survey, which my department administers, I was kind of digging down, and one of the things I noticed about 311 is people have a generally high opinion, but people who use the service have a higher opinion, and that's kind of what you look for, that you're serving the people well, and it really clearly said that, but it also said to me, people know you're out there even if they aren't using you, and they know it's valuable.
That was good feedback for us to get because that tells us we're on track. We also invite, we're proud of this, we invite every caller who calls in, unless they've called in just earlier that morning, to take a survey, a very short survey at the end of the call to help us improve our customer service. And so that gives us an immediate feedback on how are we doing, are there any concerns, was the call wait too long? Do we need to pay more attention to that? Because sometimes, it's just a matter of we can move some staffing around to make sure people's waits are as short as possible. Sometimes, however, we hope people will understand if there is a situation going on, like the flooding that we had this summer.
Like flooding or snow or things that really dramatically increase call volume in a way you just can't adjust for quickly.
Correct. Then it can take us longer to get to your call, and we don't like that, and we'll certainly address it as best we can, but that's probably a good place for us to say, if you can email it in, if it's not super urgent and time sensitive, remember to email us or go to the website. But if you really need us right away, as quickly as possible, stay on the line and we will definitely get to you.
Well, I've also heard from residents that you guys will change your recorded message that plays while people are waiting. So if you were getting a whole bunch of calls, maybe the trash pickup was rescheduled due to storm debris, people said, oh, while I was waiting, I got the message that told me when my trash pickup was going to be, so I was able to hang up. So you were very proactive.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Have people to remember if it's something that could be current like that, call and listen to that message because we may take care of your need right there up front. Then that frees up the line for people who have other questions.
Now, Sid, you came to this fairly recently, and what I know you as is our training manager for the city of Hampton. What made you interested in this position, and how did it relate at all, if it did, to what your background is?
Right. Well, it was an interesting turn of events in my life. I was, as of earlier this spring, back in April, the manager of training and organizational development in human resources, where I was doing a lot of leadership development and assisting people with performance improvement for teams and individuals. And so we had a turnover in the call center with the manager's position, and the city manager asked me if I would go over there on a temporary assignment. And I had worked with that group enough to know that they were a great group of people, and I really believed that what they were doing was incredibly important to the city. So being someone that likes to try new things, I went over there on what I thought was a temporary assignment. I loved the job I had before, but when it came time to for the city to either hire someone new and then move me back to HR or leave me there, I did have a choice in the matter, and I was interested in the position, so I put my hat in the ring, and now I'm permanent. So.
Well,
it's been a good turn of events.
I miss you as training manager, but I also see this continuum where a lot of what you did with Hampton Leads was empower people to get information and to reinforce the citizen connection and the answering and the communication. That sort of a Hampton way of doing things. So it's a little bit of a turn, but it's also a very logical
It fits
path for
very
what
well.
you care about so passionately.
A lot of what Hampton is about is engaging people, not only engaging citizens, but engaging employees. And a lot of what excellent leadership development is about is doing that same thing. So we are working on ways to involve our frontline staff more in decision making and input and allowing them, certainly the job they do on the phone is incredibly important, but they have a wealth of information and talent in addition to that allows us to, we say, take ourselves to the next level, so to speak, so that we're always improving and looking at the next way we can best serve our citizens and our mission.
Right, and we want to continue to work closely with your staff too, because you hear from a lot of citizens, we put out mass information, and for us to work together on knowing what the concerns are can help sometimes address some of those concerns.
I think that whole communications tie-in for 311 is just exactly what we're about. So we're looking forward to partnering any way with y'all that we can.
That's great. Well, why don't you we need to close, but recap the phone number and the hours, because I don't know if people always appreciate the extended opportunities to call your staff.
Glad to. 311, you can call just 311 from your landline, and some cell phones now, carriers are also making it possible for you to dial. So you can try that on your cell phone, but if that doesn't work, or you're definitely out of the Hampton area, 727-8311 is the number to call for us. We are open, we are available 24/7. 363. So we are closed Thanksgiving and Christmas, but other than that, you can think of calling those numbers at any time of the day or night.
That's pretty amazing, because I think, a lot of people don't have access to a phone during the day. They're busy at work, or they're not allowed to make personal calls, or they're welding or something that doesn't, it's not a desk job. So having that early morning and evening opportunities is just a great way to help people.
And we're there to help make people's lives easier, and also we want to connect you to the right place. We want to give you the right information, but we also are, a big part of what we do is build trust with people. Trust that their government is operating efficiently and accurately and cares about what their needs are.
That's so important. Absolutely, why we're here.
I agree.
Well, thank you. And speaking of being here, thank you for coming by today to talk with us, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching this episode of Round Robin. I hope you realize that the operators are standing by, and we'll take your call at 727-8311, whether it's about reporting something that you see in the city that you have a concern about, or a more general how do I kind of question. We hope you'll call. Thank you.